Hi everybody, we're Amy and Maggie from ThinkerThemer, and today we're looking at Creature Caravan, which was a very hot 2024 title that we couldn't get our hands on, but now we have thoroughly played this game and we can't wait to tell you what we think about it.
So in Creature Caravan, we find ourselves back in the land of Aetium, which is where Near and Far, Above and Below, and all of those games take place. Now this time, there is a new threat of ember zombies that seem to have come out of the volcanic lands of the south. And so we're going to be taking our caravan all the way through to the city of Estre, which is apparently where there's a little bit of a safe haven. And along the way, we're going to be collecting different creatures to take them to safety, and they're going to be helping us make our travels a little bit more efficient. And we might also get a chance to battle a few zombies and do a bit of trading, because ultimately we have to feed the people that we're bringing along. All of this for glory. Whoever does it the best way will be the winner.
Now in this game, every player is going to start with 5 dice that they're going to roll simultaneously on turns and apply those die to different actions on their player board, as well as the tableau that you're building out. You're going to need to manage your hand wisely as well, because cards can be discarded for resources that you will need to build new cards into your tableau. There's also the added pressure of moving your caravan, because by the end of the game, you really want to get it from one side of the central player board to the other, but also you want to ensure that you're taking at least one step every turn to maximize your points. Race objectives are really the only point of interaction in this game, which are in the form of delivering goods to the market, as well as combating the zombies along the way as you journey from one side of the board to the other. You also get VP from the cards that are in your tableau at the end of the game, and if you're able to cleverly combine the keywords to maximize the synergies, you're probably also going to score more points at the end of the game. That's the basic overview of how it plays, but now let's get into how did it feel to play.
Now with this game, I found myself having that combination of like, ooh, I feel really tense or I feel very conflicted because I only have 5 dice to allocate, and there's a lot that I want to get done. And so I'm also kind of looking at my hand of cards and going, okay, so which one of these am I going to add to my tableau? But they're going to cost resources, and those resources I'm going to have to, they're going to have to come from me allocating dice. And do I actually have, or am I going to sacrifice some of these other cards? But they're all really good. And so like that's where for me, so all of that is happening in my head. The experience from the outside is just like everyone is just quiet, like
working out what they want to do.
Sort of head down quietly,
Because in this game, you only get 12 rounds. And so at the beginning of the game, you're going to have these 12 tents, and every time a round concludes, everyone's going to drop a tent on the map, which is kind of the timer for the game. But when you're starting, you're like, 12 turns? How am I going to get everything done in 12 turns? But it's one of those games that as you start to build up your tableau, more options become available to you, and there's more synergies that are occurring, and there's a lot more if this happens, then this happens. So you're getting all these other extra goodies. And so as the game progresses, your turns are getting more powerful as well. Yeah. But that also means the cognitive load is getting more as well, because you're like, I forgot that if I do this, then I get this for free. So it's one of those games. And because of that, it is really quiet as an experience. So if you're thinking about whether this game is for you or not, the first thing I'm going to say is it's extremely multiplayer solitaire.
Yeah.
However, usually I don't like multiplayer solitaire if you watch this channel. But the puzzle is so engaging in that when both players, or however many people you're playing with, are playing this game, we are both so focused, but also I don't feel the downtime because the turns are simultaneous. And so I'm busily thinking about how am I going to allocate my die. And then there is something that they've added which brings in that interaction piece, and that is the race objectives.
Yeah, so there's these 2 central boards. One represents the shared market, where you're going to be trading either coins or bags for bread, for the resources that you need to build more cards, but they're also going to be giving you victory points by the end. And it's got this really interesting thing where as soon as someone claims one, it's not completely gone, but it's almost like you have 2 rounds, because at the end of the round, the cube will move down 1, and then at the end of the next round, it'll kind of move down again, and then it's like that trade is closed forever. So you might be going like, oh, some of those lower ones, the low hanging fruit, like, oh, I've got 2 bags and I really want to exchange them, but I see that Amy's just put that. I might have to do that now. So like that's the one element that might kind of make you.
I think it is so. That part of the game is probably the part that surprised me the most, because mechanically I think it's just so clever and well designed, because it not only forces all players to really ramp up their strategy, because things get harder as the game gets on. So you want to fight a zombie, well, guess what, everybody's taken their easy battles off the board, and so now towards the end game you need to be really powerful. So you need to be thinking about that early on, as how am I going to build up this engine or this tableau to be able to make that happen. And then in the market the same thing occurs as well. So as Maggie said, the early trades go quickly, and I really like that, because it's not only forcing you to be more optimal as the game goes on, but also that panic of like, oh no, like, should I just tactically switch what I was going to do this turn and do that instead. And so obviously the more players you have in the game, the more that those things are getting triggered earlier. But actually what I found was, even in a 2-player game, it still provided that nice like sequence of things getting harder and like a little bit of tension around like, if I don't do this now, I'll never be able to.
The other thing that I'll say about this is I had this sort of feeling that I get when I play Hadrian's Wall. Now, hear me out. This is why. Because I often found, like in Hadrian's Wall, there's so much about like, okay, I do this, which gives me this resource, which then I like in exchange for this, and I can. So I felt that with this, because there's so much of like using the cards to like, no, I'm actually just going to burn this card to get bread, and then I'm going to use this bread to play this card, and that means I can allocate this die here, which will give me this thing, which will then allow me to like, so you get those like little combos of like kind of like that resource cycling thing, which I really enjoyed.
And there was often those moments, for me, in my own head of like, oh, why did I do it in that order? If I had done that first, that would have been way more efficient. So there's a lot of little micro moments of frustration at oneself.
Now, something that I wasn't expecting with this game is, as I was kind of reading the rules to learn it, I was like, oh, there's a lot of dice rolling. I don't tend to love games with dice rolling and dice allocation. And then it's like, there's a lot of cards. I love the artwork, obviously the Ryan Lockett artwork and design, but like every card is unique. And so you're like, and every card has, the character name and the types and so. And so like, but there's a lot of card reading. All the cards are like, well, that one does this and that one does this and this might add to it. I usually don't like that. And yet, every time that I've played this, and there was this sort of progression of like, the first time I played, I was like, okay, this was fun, this was it, and I just kept playing it, and it's just like my enjoyment of it has kept going up and up. So even though it has those 2 mechanics that I usually enjoy, here, I don't know, the dice are also really satisfying. Like it's just the right size, and they're this sort of
the dice are beautiful with the little metallic kind of tips that I have,
and it's just really satisfying, because it's just like you've got your little hand of dice, and then you're kind of allocating them, and then even with the cards, it's like it was very quick for me to go, okay, maybe I'll pivot, I'll do this. I really enjoyed that.
I was really surprised by that as well, because we don't typically play games that have a lot of card reading, like powers or that kind of thing is not really our style. We're more like the, Euro, very like physically putting workers out and things. But over time, as we play this more and more, I just felt myself being drawn back into it. I think it's because, there's so much that you could do, and you often end up going down one strategy that it's like, oh, that was really interesting, and it made the game feel different. And and that the timing of the game is just really well done, that it keeps the tension really tight. It just is really quick to get to the table as well. It takes us about 30 to 40 minutes to play a game, depending on how optimal we're being. So it's, I also was really quite surprised by that. I do want to give a shout out to one of my favorite components that I think I've seen in so long. So in this game, there is a deluxe edition, which we fortunately have, which has little meeple zombies, and we call them disco zombies because they're kind of doing this and
staying alive.
They're staying alive.
Yeah, that's I don't know if that was intentional. I hope it was. I feel like it was. But they're actually also, because they're the ember zombies, which are essentially like I love, and again, like the imagery and the world that this sort of sets, and this sort of idea of like these zombies are like a hive for these ember flies that are the ones that kind of inhabit it. It's like, that is just so, like, I got goosebumps just sort of thinking about it. And yet the little wooden pieces have the ember bits are that sort of kind of
Favorite meeple.
Yeah,
It's going to be in the top 5
shiny
meeples.
bit. It's just so satisfying.
So perfect.
Yeah.
Now, if you haven't worked out already, we've both been really enjoying our time with this game. If I had to think of one thing that I would change, there was one thing that frustrated me a little bit, kind of in the midway through, playing this game lots and lots, and that was the size of the deck of cards. And so in this game, there is an expansion which brings in a lot more cards, and as you play it, it kind of becomes essential, this expansion, because it just allows you to play with a strategy a lot more.
It's essentially like equipment that then you can attach to particular creatures, and then it gives you additional abilities.
Yeah. And so I'd only want to play it with this expansion, but what it does is it creates a lot more cards in the deck, and you start to have a bit of the Arc Nova effect, we should call it, which is, you're looking for a particular keyword or a card to get something done, and you're having to dig through a lot of cards to find it, and you maybe you'll never find it. And I found that a little bit frustrating, and then I kind of learned to mitigate against that a bit more by having more options to get new cards and to churn through the deck a lot more, but that takes a little bit of effort as well. So some people, I expect, will find that a little bit frustrating. But other than that, I don't think there's much I would change.
Well, for me, interestingly, I was like, oh, it's got a solo mode. Let me check it out. And it's like, oh, it's an automa type, like facilitation on that. And so initially I would have, my anticipation would have been that I would have been like, ideally, I would have loved a solo mode that's less hassle. And yet it's essentially got two different modes, because there's one, it's the back of the boards that has the bot. And one of them is sort of for the base game. And then another one is for if you're using that Wanderers expansion that we've been talking about. And I actually found that I actually found that turn, facilitating that turn, wasn't that distracting and was actually really enjoyable. And it's again, like you are rolling the dice, but then you're allocating them on the board, and then it tells you, because it's only like a handful of things that you're doing, it's pretty quick to resolve. And it just, and I found myself really like playing it with one and then playing it with the other. With the expansion, I just can't seem to beat it. But with the base, I'm like, okay, I feel like, okay, I don't know how consistent it is in terms of like as an opponent, but you do get that experience of like, it's taking up those spots, it's scoring, it's doing all these sort of things. So I really enjoyed the solo. And
I remember you saying at one point that you wish it had a bit of a campaign or a story.
That's so there is no narrative. So obviously, going back to like Sleeping Gods and even like other games like Above and Below, and so they always have that little bit of narrative, and I really enjoy that. This one doesn't have that, which initially I was like, oh, maybe it's sad, because I love this, like Ryan Lockett's
I didn't
games.
miss it that much.
I feel like these are by far the best writing in terms of like games that have things that you read out. Like this is the writing that just truly resonates with me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm there, I see it, I feel it. And so,
but not in this game.
It's like I miss it. But then I was like, but then it's different. Like it's fine. It doesn't need it. Like I can just use it in the other games.
It's an exceptionally clever, like the puzzle and the tableau building is so strong in this game. I think it's one of the strongest, and for that reason, you're not going to be surprised to hear that we will be keeping this game in our collection. I gave it an 8.2, which is a very high score, and I think that if I had have played this in 2024, it definitely would have been in my top 5 big box games of the year.
Absolutely. For me, so I was actually going to give this an 8.3, but halfway through, even like as I'm talking, because this keeps going up every time I play it. So who knows, if I review it in a year, it'll be my top game of all time or something. At the moment, it's an 8.5. So
8.5.
It's like,
Wow.
8.5.
Okay.
It's pretty solid. And every time it's
scraping
one of those games,
the top 10.
Yeah, it's every time one of those, like when I see it on the table, because like, oh, I need to take some photos of it, or I need to like, I want to play with this other automa. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to play it again.
Yeah,
like,
and this game sat on our table for a long time, and there are other games that were coming in the door and we're like, oh, we need to play that. But actually tonight I just really want to play Creature Caravan. So I hope that demonstrates how much we really think of this game quite highly. Now, a lot of you in the comments for this series, Shelfworthy, because I've been saying it's 1 in, 1 out, have been asking, well, what is it replacing? And that is a great question. And the short answer is, I don't know yet. And I'll tell you why, because we are currently in the process of building a new studio, and putting all our games back on the shelf, because as you can see behind us, there's not 300 games or whatever it is behind us. There's only a fraction of those, and everything is in storage. So it's very hard for us to think about what in our collection is this going to replace. But I will say that as we started to think about that, I don't know if there's a game that's quite like it in our collection because we don't tend to keep these card reading games in our collection. And this has a really interesting combination of mechanics that I haven't really seen before. It's definitely not, you know, I can't liken it to anything that we have.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm just going to have to find something else that we play less often to
It's just going to have to go on top of the other games.
Yeah.
No, imagine.
No.
Can you imagine? No.
No. We just have to find something that we want to play less often. But maybe we'll get to that. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.